Let us welcome Prince Harry into the room, the Duke of Sussex. Your Majesties, King Lipitsana III and Masenate Mhato Seiso, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, distinguished First Ladies of Finland and distinguished First Ladies of Finland, Your Excellency Suzanne, Innes-Stubb, Madam First Lady of the Republic of Botswana, Lady Neo Masisi, distinguished ministers here present of the Government of Lesotho and all other ministers who are with us in the room, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matete Nena. I am the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Lesotho to the United Nations. I will be moderating this important session, side event of our day today. Lesotho is a mountain kingdom located in the southern tip of Africa. The country is celebrating 200 years of its founding as a nation this year. This founding of the Basotho nation is based on the principles of peace, khotso in our language. With a young population and vast potential, Lesotho's future is grounded in its people, natural resources, and strong cultural heritage. Despite progress made so far, many of our people face poverty, deprivation, gender-based violence, and inequality. The government of Lesotho is committed to uplifting its people through social and economic development. As a country, Lesotho is ready for investment and partnerships, hence the holding of this important side event today. The United Nations cooperates with government through the UN Lesotho framework document, which articulates the areas of intervention. Her Majesty the Queen, as the mother of the nation, is engaged in efforts meant to alleviate the social challenges that are facing us as a nation. And today, we will be honored with listening to Her Majesty's vision for the country as we fight the challenges facing our citizens in this important year in our history of the celebration of the 200 years of the founding of the Basotho nation. On that note, I will immediately proceed to the core of our business. I have the honor to invite Your Majesty Queen Masenate Seiso to deliver the keynote address to the side event. Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, King Lipitsana III, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here today representing the resilient people of Lesotho, We are here because we have a shared conviction that a safer, more dignified world is not only possible, but achievable if we all work in unison. Our determination is propelled by the tenacity of purpose in our collective efforts and commitment to invest in women, children, and vulnerable groups. It requires us to forge partnerships that ignite innovation and action, paving the way for peace and dignity for all. Let me share with you the story of the resilience and strength of Basotho women. The story that illustrates the pivotal role women have in social, cultural, economic, and political spheres of any community and nation. It is a story that resonates deeply with me. It is the story of Ntoa ya Lipitsana, or the War of Utensils. During the time of widespread wars in our part of the world, one of the chiefs of that time waged war on Basotho, while men had gone out to scout for more secure fortress, leaving behind women and the elderly. When their homes and children were threatened, Basotho women took up whatever they had: pots, pans, utensils, and they fought. They fought not with weapons, but with the tools of their everyday lives. They defended their families, their dignity, and their right to safety, and won the war. Ladies and gentlemen, the War of Utensils is not just a story of a war that took place centuries ago. It is also an act of resilience, which signifies the vital role women can play in the protection and preservation of their families and society during trying times. It also serves as a reminder that even in the face of many challenges, women have within themselves the strength to protect their interests against all odds. The challenges of today compel us to inculcate that spirit as we confront them. Excellencies, women worldwide, together with their children and other vulnerable groups, continue to bear the brunt of poverty and underdevelopment as a result of climate change and the scourge of conflicts. Peace continues to elude many in households, in schools, workplaces, and public places. This calls for our concerted effort to redress. The adoption of the Pact for the Future a few days ago gives us hope that this time the narrative will change. Lesotho, like many other nations of the world, has to cope with the daunting challenges of our time, which include the scourge of HIV and AIDS, food insecurity, gender-based violence, among others. The recent statistics indicate that a significant number of Basotho women and girls have experienced violence in their lifetime. This is not just alarming, but heartbreaking. We should, therefore, not just look at these as numbers without taking a deep reflection on their meaning. They are evident in the lived realities of mothers, sisters, daughters, and friends who bear indelible scars, not only on their bodies and minds, but on the very fabric as part of a society. We as women cannot and must not accept this as our fate. We must be unequivocal in our commitment. Gender-based violence is a violation of human rights and must be eradicated by all means possible. We must dig deep to confront its root causes, which are patriarchal norms, economic inequality, and inadequate legal protections. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which Lesotho ratified in 1995, is an excellent channel to advance and protect the rights of women. I must emphasize that prevention is important, but not enough. We must ensure that survivors are treated with dignity and respect, and the respect they deserve. This will require comprehensive support services, robust legal frameworks, and the active engagement of men and boys in transforming harmful gender norms. Together, we can. Child marriage remains another significant challenge in Lesotho. Nearly 19% of our girls are married before the age of 18. This practice robs young girls of their childhood, their education, and their future. It is a cycle exacerbated by poverty, cultural practices, and gender inequality. To break the cycle, we must harmonize our laws, strengthen community engagement, and provide economic support to families. Let us stand united in our quest to end child marriage and ensure that every girl has the opportunity to reach her full potential. Children must be the foundation upon which we build Lesotho's future. Today, more than 75,000 children in Lesotho are not registered at birth, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation. This is not just a legal issue, it is a moral imperative. We need to ensure that every child is recognized, protected, and able to access the services they need so that no one is left behind. Beyond the home, our government is working very hard to ensure that education is available and accessible to all children, even though disparities are holding back too many of our children, especially in rural areas. High dropout rates among boys, early marriage, and inadequate menstrual hygiene management for girls are just a few of the barriers. Ensuring gender equality in education is not just a goal, it is a necessity. The challenges that we face are all intertwined and require coordinated and concerted efforts to turn the tide on inequalities and injustices, not just in Lesotho, but globally. Excellencies, I'm sure that many of you are aware that climate change is taking a toll on many countries. The Southern African region is currently responding to the impact of El Nino and anticipating La Nina in the coming months. Many of our people are experiencing severe food crisis. In Lesotho, a third of the population are experiencing severe food crisis. And this has compelled the government to declare a state of emergency on food security. Despite all efforts to invest heavily in agriculture, we continue to experience successive episodes of either floods, early frost, or drought, thus leading to poor harvests. The climate change crisis in Lesotho is real, deep, and intertwined with the pervasive issues of malnutrition and food insecurity, which disproportionately affect women and children. The majority of those living in poverty in Lesotho are women. Another contingent is that of children who are at great risk, with 65% facing food insecurity and 36% suffering from chronic malnutrition, a statistic that has risen by 3% over the last decade. Good health and nutrition are fundamental requirements for life. Yet, malnutrition and limited access to health care remain critical challenges. These challenges are particularly acute for our children and youth living with HIV, TB, and other health challenges. The food crisis has compounded an already difficult situation. I fear for many of our people who are food insecure. We must therefore strive to strengthen our health and nutrition programs to ensure that all young people can lead healthy, fulfilling lives. While our governments are the primary duty bearers, the size of the challenge is an opportunity for all of us, including our development partners, to play our part in changing the trajectory of development. Equally, the private sector has a role to play. While statistics show that Lesotho has the second highest HIV prevalence rate in the world per capita, we need to acknowledge that a lot of progress has been made in the fight against HIV and AIDS. The government, working together with communities and development partners, has really worked tirelessly to make this happen. Community-driven, consistent investment, and global solidarity have been key in this achievement. We have expanded access to antiretroviral therapy and improved the quality of life for many living with the virus. However, we are still battling with the increase in adolescent infections. These achievements show what is possible when we unite behind a common cause. But our work is not done yet. With 40% of new HIV infections occurring among adolescent girls and young women, we must remain steadfast. We must improve access to comprehensive sexual education, reduce stigma, and ensure that all young people have access to antiretroviral therapy, and also not turn a blind eye to other interconnected issues that enable such increases to happen. Social inclusion and combating stigma are essential for building a more equitable society. We must invest in programs that promote social inclusion and those that provide psychosocial support, while appreciating that young people deserve the opportunity to participate fully in their community and live with dignity. Your Majesty, Excellencies, in conclusion, I would like to highlight that for me, your support of this event is testimony to the global solidarity and partnerships that we all need to change our circumstances. The story of Ntoa ya Lipitsana, the war of utensils, shows that even in the face of overwhelming odds, ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they come together with courage and resolve. The challenges before us are great, but so too is our resolve. A safer world is possible if we invest in our women, our children, and the most vulnerable among us. Let us forge partnerships that galvanize innovation and action for peace and dignity for all. Lesotho is ready to be part of this noble journey. Together, we can create a future where every individual, regardless of their circumstances, can live in dignity. Together, we can build a better world for generations to come. I thank you for your attention.
I thank Your Majesty Masenate for your opening remarks, which indeed give us hope that as we move into the future, a safer world is possible when women take action. I will now proceed to our next speaker of the day, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, who is a long friend of the Kingdom of Lesotho, sharing deep connection with the country through his work on mental health and well-being, particularly of vulnerable populations. Through initiatives such as Sentebale, a charity he co-founded with His Royal Highness Prince Seiso Seiso in Lesotho, advocating for mental health and holistic care. His commitment to these issues aligns closely with Lesotho's efforts to foster a safer, healthier, and more dignified future for her peoples, especially women and children. I now have the honor to invite Prince Harry to deliver his remarks.
Thank you. Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and friends, Dumela me, Dumela Ndate. The rest of the speech I will be doing in English. I would like to start by extending my deepest gratitude to their Majesties for their continued friendship. The Lesotho royal family, as well as Lesotho itself, has been a pillar of strength for me over the last 20 years, welcoming me with open arms and such kindness that the beautiful mountain kingdom feels like a home away from home. That friendship has only grown stronger as we've worked together to tackle some of the most pressing challenges facing the Basotho people and the wider world. It all began 2 decades ago, when my dear friend Prince Seiso first gave me a tour of your special country. I was struck by the strength and courage of your people amidst the immense challenges they faced, and particularly the children. Because of that experience, the people I met and what I was exposed to, 2 years later we created Sentebale, which means forget-me-not in Sesotho. The charity was founded in honor of our mothers and symbolizes our pledge to always remember and advocate for the most vulnerable among us. Our mission at Sentebale is simple, yet incredibly important: to help vulnerable children and young people across Lesotho and Botswana to access vital health services, receive care and support, and develop the life skills necessary to thrive. By focusing on the youth, we are breaking generational cycles of trauma and of outdated beliefs. Our work touches the lives of nearly 80,000 children and young people every year. Our youth programs continue to engage and empower them with a better understanding of their health, their education, social rights, and opportunities for creating a livelihood for the benefit of both their physical and mental health. In partnership with communities and international partners, our work has meant that now over 90% of people living with HIV in Lesotho know their status and are enrolled in treatment. With the outlook for a full life now a reality, we have evolved to working with the next generation in realizing their potential. Yet social stigmas continue to hold back progress. Whether it's around gender-based violence, HIV, or mental illness, we know that stigma thrives on silence. So the need to confront these challenges head-on and create safe spaces for young people to share their experiences, especially women, has never been more urgent. Suffering in silence prolongs these issues. We must be brave enough to speak and kind enough to listen. Gender-based violence remains a significant issue in Lesotho, with 9 in 10 women experiencing some form of violence in their lifetime. The root causes are indeed complex. Economic inequality, poverty, unemployment, outdated mindsets, and inadequate legal protections all play a part in perpetuating this cycle of violence. And of course, this isn't just a Lesotho problem. The levels of trauma are unconscionable, but avoidable. And we can't only lean on women to speak up about their experiences. All people need to stand up loudly against these patterns of violence, playing an active and proactive role in breaking the cycle. We know that together we can build a better future. We know education and early childhood development are the foundations of national peace and prosperity. Investing in these areas is critical if we are to break our generational cycles, not just in Lesotho, but around the world. Every child deserves the chance to succeed, and that begins with access to basic healthcare and quality education. So let us commit to ensuring that every child is given the opportunity to reach their full potential. No matter how hard life becomes, no matter how much government budgets are squeezed, we simply have to protect our children's future. Much of the work I undertake comes under the umbrella of mental health and our collective well-being. And the rising rate of suicide among young people in Lesotho and around the world weighs heavily on my heart, as I'm sure it does on yours too. Good mental health, mental fitness, is not a luxury. It is a necessity for every single one of us. More so, perhaps, for our decision makers and those sitting in positions of power and influence. Addressing this issue requires not only global action, but also the courage to break the stigma, to talk openly about our mental health without fear of judgment. And progress is only possible when communities come together, and the work that Sentebale continues to carry out is tangible proof that with shared determination, real and lasting change can happen. And we must deliver change to protect the most vulnerable and ensure that every child, every young person and family has the support they need. Today, we have gathered here in New York, a city known for its diversity and progress and whose example teaches us the importance of inclusion. Diverse perspectives, experiences, and voices are crucial if we are going to forge a more equitable world. Partnerships are therefore fundamental to delivering change. Whether we're addressing the changing climate and its effects on food security, advocating for children's rights, or tackling the HIV epidemic, we cannot do it alone. Global collaboration is essential for creating a safer and more resilient future. So today, as we reflect on the challenges ahead, let us also remember the power we have to create the change. And let's get to it. A safer world is possible, and together we can and will make it happen. Thank you.
I thank Prince Harry for his deep message of support, which gives us inspiration that indeed complex challenges, however they may appear to be facing us, remain possible to be defeated if we remain united as the Committee of Nations. At this juncture, please allow me to now proceed to our next speaker, the First Lady of Finland, Madame Suzanne Innes-Stubb, who is also an advocate of the rights of both women and children. From the perspective of the developed countries, we will be honored to hear your views. Madame Suzanne, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Your Majesties, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Her Majesty Masenate Mahato Seiso, the Queen of Lesotho, for the opportunity to speak at this unique event. I would also like to congratulate Lesotho on its bicentenary, marking the 200 years since your nation was founded. Finland's relations with Lesotho took a remarkable leap forward this year when His Majesty King Letsie III and his delegation visited Finland in June. The recent dialogue between our two nations has highlighted our shared interests, including those discussed here today. I'm going to focus on one fundamental human right, which is also one of the most powerful drivers of peace: education, in particular the education of girls. When girls are educated, they are empowered to participate in decision-making and contribute to building more stable and resilient societies. Yet, globally, 119 million girls are not in school. In many parts of the world, girls face significant barriers to education, such as ongoing conflicts, poverty, gender-based violence, genital mutilation, child marriage and early childbearing, and teenage pregnancies. In conflict zones, girls are more than twice as likely to be out of school as girls living in non-affected areas. These challenges not only have a negative impact on girls, but also reinforce patterns of inequality in society as a whole. Excellencies, distinguished guests, Finland has first-hand experience of how quality education can transform society. At the beginning of the 20th century, Finland was a nation struggling with poverty, with 40% of 15-year-olds unable to read. A decision to invest in education ensured that girls and boys from different socioeconomic backgrounds were given equal access to learning opportunities. Over time, education became the backbone of Finland's progress, empowering women to participate fully in the workforce and in decision-making. In roughly 100 years, Finland has transformed from one of the poorest countries in Europe to a modern, knowledge-based economy and one of the most gender-equal countries in the world. However, like any country, we still face challenges. For example, the orientation of men and women into different professional careers and interests begins at an early age. Girls do well in mathematics and science at school, but boys are still more likely to choose career paths in technological fields. It is clear that many future advancements will be driven by technology, and if girls are not actively involved, they risk being left behind. Therefore, we must ask ourselves, how can we make sure that girls receive the education and opportunities needed to thrive in a technology-driven future? How can we harness innovations and technology to close gender equality gaps rather than creating new ones? To remove the barriers that prevent girls from accessing education in the first place, we need to address the root causes, create safe and inclusive learning environments, and tackle gender-based violence in and around schools. To turn this into a reality, we must adopt innovative approaches and foster public-private partnerships. Innovations and digital solutions can provide access to high-quality education for girls who might otherwise be left behind. In regions where girls cannot physically attend school, online education can bridge the gap, offering them an opportunity to learn. One example of our efforts in this regard is the collaboration with UNICEF to establish the Learning Innovation Hub in Helsinki. The hub's purpose is to harness technology in order to tackle the global learning crisis. Promoting girls' education is one of the hub's priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, education for girls is not just about access to school, it is about transforming societies. Schools are not only centres of learning, but environments where children shape their understanding of equality and of stable, peaceful societies. Through quality education, girls and women become problem solvers, critical thinkers, peacemakers, and drivers of positive change in society. So let us focus on innovative technology solutions to enable quality education to reach all girls everywhere. Thank you.
I thank Madame Suzanne for her remarks, which remind us of our collective role and responsibility to protect the rights of our dear children as well as their mothers, guided by the spirit of leaving no one behind. I now have the honor to invite Neo Masisi, First Lady of the Republic of Botswana, to deliver her remarks. Neo.
Your Majesty King Letsie III, Your Majesty Queen Masenate, Seychelles of the Kingdom of Lesotho, Your Royal Highness Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, Your Excellencies here present, Ministers here present, distinguished guests, a very good afternoon to you all. I bring you greetings from the people of the Republic of Botswana, Dumelang Bagaetsho. Let me from the onset thank you, Your Majesty Queen Masenate, Seychelles, for extending an invitation to myself to participate at this side event, particularly at a significant time when the people of the Kingdom of Lesotho commemorate 200 years of your existence. I also congratulate you, Basotho. Bagaetsho le dirile sentle. This important side event, themed A Safer World is Possible, investing in women, children, and other vulnerable groups and establishing partnerships that galvanize innovation and action for peace and dignity. It is timely and relevant that these groups represent more than half our populations, and furthermore, that we are left with less than 6 years until achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. I too stand here in agreement that it is indeed possible to have a world where peace and tranquility prevail, provided nations recommit and avail resources as a collective. Furthermore, this can be realized if we make deliberate efforts to afford women, children, vulnerable groups, including persons with disabilities, safe spaces. As a people, Botswana are fully aware that women, children, and other vulnerable groups, such as persons with disabilities, are a fundamental part of our society. Their contribution to a sustainable development agenda can therefore not be ignored. Whilst we note that our adolescent girls and young women face numerous challenges as unemployment and economic exclusion, unplanned pregnancies, high maternal deaths, sexually transmitted infections, and gender-based violence, it remains our collective responsibility to ensure their safe passage to adulthood. It is critical to highlight that the empowerment process should start right at conception, where unborn babies are given appropriate health care to ensure their safe and secure arrival and survival on Earth. This should be followed by access to quality education, access to quality health care, access to the labor market, and providing social protection nets where required. Parenting at household level and community level also plays a critical role in shaping the lives of these young persons, so they become responsible citizens. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. Children need to access affordable quality services, such as early childhood education and protection from any form of abuse. Encompassing these fundamental rights range from the right to play to affording children participation in decision-making processes, particularly on issues that affect their lives. In our Southern African context, where the population of women and young people exceed 65%, there's a need to ensure their appropriate integration into the mainstream economy. As we transition to 2030, it is important to recognize that the growing population of adolescent girls and young women offers us a valuable opportunity for tapping into the demographic dividend. The Generation Z can renew not only Botswana's social and economic capital, but the SADC region and the world at large. As such, it is imperative that we invest in youth, from childhood to adulthood, and that we embrace youth as a profitable economic, social, and political investment through which we can have sustainable return on investment. This means empowering them not only through access to quality education and health services and viable employment, they also require safe spaces where they can freely voice their contribution towards the sustainable development process. And let us be cognizant that the exclusion of Generation Z in national planning at all levels is a high risk for social unrest. As the young generation keeps saying, nothing for us without us, and everything for us without us is against us. This saying should challenge all of us to adopt extensive consultations, methodologies, as we embark in the development process to ensure representation of the views of women, youth, children, and persons with disabilities. It is important to emphasize that the future of our region and the African continent, and of course the globe, are intimately connected to women, children, and young people. Hence the need to ensure that the adopted reforms afford them a chance to fully participate in the socio-economic, cultural, and political development of their countries. Noting that gender-based violence is closely linked to masculinity, poverty, alcohol and substance abuse, as well as the spread of HIV, of which our region bears the most brunt, it is imperative that we continue to adopt unconventional methods to engage men and boys as strategic partners in addressing gender-based violence, HIV infections, and breaking the poverty cycle, especially amongst women and girls, particularly in the rural areas. I urge member states, development partners, and the private sector to support us in this undertaking as per Sustainable Development Goal 17, Partnerships for Goals. Together we can create a safer world where every woman, child, and vulnerable individual has the opportunity to live with dignity and hope. Noting that persons with disabilities are a critical component of our society, may I implore all of us to fast-track implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It is extremely sad that decades later, we still hear those with disabilities crying out and saying, "We too are human. Le rona re batho." How very sad it is. It is through domestication of this instrument that we can ensure the empowerment of the segment of the population and enjoy their meaningful contribution to development. Let me seize this valuable opportunity to share Botswana's human rights journey. Botswana, being party to various human rights international instruments, has over the years made strides to implement them. Examples include adoption of the Domestic Violence Act, Children's Act, Anti-Human Trafficking Act, Sexual Offenders Registry Act, and the recent bail of 2024. Other frameworks include the National Policy on Gender and Development, National Youth Policy, National Strategy towards ending gender-based violence, and other oversight structures, which include the National Gender Commission, the National Children's Council, and the High-Level Interministerial Committee on Gender-Based Violence. Government, in stepping up efforts to ensure persons with disabilities are included in national planning, has set up a coordinating office for people with disabilities, which falls under Ministry of State Presidents. Actually, well, speaking of persons with disabilities, I think we should also start thinking, for consistency purposes, what really are we calling them? Is it people with disabilities or people who are differently abled? What is more acceptable to them? Perhaps it's time we looked at the nomenclature. Maybe that is why they also feel out of space and that we've put them at the back. To ensure access to justice for women and children, government established the specialized courts for gender-based violence cases and the Gender and Child Protection Branch within the Botswana Police Service, including child-friendly police stations. We note the significant progress made in promoting and protecting the rights of our citizens in all their diversity and the need to continue seeking better ways to improve their livelihoods. Let us underscore that investing in women, children, and other vulnerable groups leads to acceleration of development and addresses intergenerational inequalities, thereby guaranteeing sustainable development. This will guarantee future generations benefit from current generations. In conclusion, I wish to urge all of us to recommit and keep regular check of the set scorecards as a path to achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, while also protecting the rights of our children and persons with disabilities, so we leave no one behind, while ensuring they live lives of dignity. Thank you very much. Ke a leboha. Merci beaucoup. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Neo, for that, your remarks, which clearly leads us to understanding the Botswana journey in this important effort. We are indeed inspired and encouraged by that message of support and partnership. Together we shall overcome. I now have the honor to invite the Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Honorable Barbara Rotsi, whom I have been informed that she is with us. We will all remember that the Republic of Zimbabwe is the chair of SADC. Thank you very much, Minister.
Is this the speaker? Thank you very much, Your Majesty, the Queen of the Republic of Lesotho, Madame Seychelles, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, Your Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Botswana, Masisi, and Your Excellency of the Republic of Finland. It is indeed an honor to join this important gathering on creating a safer world through investment in women and children as well as vulnerable groups, a cause that aligns closely to the government of Zimbabwe and its own priorities. Let me extend my sincere thanks to Her Majesty for convening this timeless discussion on the emergence of UN General Assembly 79. I also would want to commend you, Your Majesty, and the government of Lesotho for the unwavering commitment that you have, as well as your partners, in protecting and empowering women and children. The Lesotho leadership, in particular, in community-driven initiatives and advocates against gender-based violence, which is very key for all of us, in the continent and in the southern region of Africa. It is really inspirational. And the historical strength of the Basotho women exemplifies the courage and resilience of the women as they protect their families and communities. We know that without protecting our communities and our families, there's no peace in the world. Coming back home, the government of Zimbabwe has a vision for an upper middle income society by 2030. However, there's a realization that without a safer place and more peaceful world in our country, we cannot achieve this vision. Women and children in particular are central to building resilient societies, so as women and children in Zimbabwe. Empowering them, strengthening our communities and securing a future where people are peaceful and have dignity is very key. Our government continues to prioritize gender equality, access to quality education that many of you up there has already mentioned, quality healthcare, very key, and the protection of human rights is also very key and key to peaceful country. These efforts create a ripple effect, improving livelihoods and ensuring that no one is left behind, as well as no place is left behind. These are issues that the government is committed to invest in and in partnering with other organizations. I am proud, as the First Lady of the Republic of Zimbabwe, to let you know that as First Ladies, we are the mothers of the nations, and we bring peace to the nations through communities and through our own children. Let me just highlight a few of the strides that my office has done thus far. Our office has initiated several programs that aimed to promoting social, economic, and political empowerment of the women. We know that at the center of peace, women are the ones and the children. So through Angelo Forbes Foundation, which I founded to support unprivileged communities, we are spearheading numerous projects that keep the women busy, gives economical income generative programs to the women as well. Entrepreneurship training is very key. Maternal health support is very key. Programs to combat child marriages, very, very key, as it is common in Africa and also common in Zimbabwe. I have started by introducing a free toll line, 575, that opens communication free, direct to me as the First Lady, that has a pathway to communicating with anyone who's underprivileged, anyone suffering gender-based violence, or even children who are suffering at the hands of those who are looking after them. This was in mind to think that it will bring every issues that are hidden to us as the decision makers to know, as well as channeling them, of course, through the president of the country. We have very key programs that we think I should be going with my team, communicating with smaller groups in every province, in small communities, going in all corners of the country, talking to them directly, understanding what is happening to them that is bringing gender-based violence in their families, what is happening in children's welfare that is bringing instability. As Her Excellency from Botswana has highlighted that substance abuse is getting high in our region. What is causing that? So I have programs that I meet with fathers on their own. I meet with mothers on their own, whether it's single parent, marriage or not. I meet with them in their huge numbers. They raise their issues. The fathers also raise their own issues, as well as the children, whereby we are realizing that many children are actually coming to say, Your Excellency, I am now in drugs because of the issues that my mother and father are exemplifying in the household. What can we do about that? It's not just issues that happens at school, but it's also issues that are happening in a household that is causing children to engage in drugs. What can we do about it as a society and as a country as well as a government? And additionally, we are working with traditional leaders whom we know, according to African culture, they have an influence on societies. As much as we know that the government has to play its role, but what is traditional leadership at every stage doing to make sure there is peace, to make sure the country is in line with what is expected of by the United Nations? We also engaging with religious institutions, getting into big congregations, talking to them as well, that we know that religiously you are the peacemakers, but what are you doing about what is happening in our society that is bringing instability, particularly gender-based violence and discriminatory practices that affect women and children? I've also introduced what we call in our language Nanga Gota, whereby young girls, as they develop to be women, and young boys, as they develop to be men, in our traditional history, they used to be taught certain things that builds a woman into a girl into a real woman, a boy into a real man, who has to maintain peace, who has to know that women must not be beaten, or men must be treated in a certain manner. What can we do? I'm engaging as well in every province, in every district, where I take young girls for camps, for 7 days camps, and I take the boys for 7 days camps, and we discuss these issues. Because no single country or community can achieve sustainable peace or dignity without engagement. This is why I am doing this. It serves as a platform for galvanizing collective action and innovation, ensuring that no one is left behind. So Zimbabwe is eager to strengthen its regional and international collaborations, collaborating with our own countries in the southern region of the continent, but also as a whole continent and across the globe is also very key. So let us therefore move forward with determination, Your Majesty and Excellencies. Together, through collaboration and innovation, we can build a world where peace, dignity, and safety are a reality for all. Let us continue to journey to ensure peace in our homes, in the schools, in the communities, and make the vision a safer world and a reality for every woman and for every child, as well as every vulnerable person in our society, leaving no one and no place behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. While I thank you for your elucidating remarks, may I also take this opportunity to acknowledge in our presence the First Lady of the Kingdom of Eswatini. We are very delighted, Madam, to be with you in our midst. I am informed that there is pressure on the use of this facility that we are in. Our time is almost up, but before I wrap up, I had a list of some of the UN agencies who have made this side event possible. May I just ask in 1 minute each to give you the perspectives from the UN side. I will begin with UN-AIDS, the Deputy Executive Director and Assistant Secretary, Ms. Christine Stegling. Madam, you have the floor. If she's not in the room, may I now proceed to UNFPA?
Yes, I'm here.
Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Your Majesty, Queen of the Kingdom of Lesotho, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, Excellencies and distinguished guests, on behalf of UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, I would like to thank Her Majesty, the Queen, and the Kingdom of Lesotho for organizing this very important event. The Kingdom of Lesotho has made significant efforts towards achieving gender equality, including through enacting legislation and mainstreaming gender equality into national policies. And we thank for the efforts of Her Majesty the Queen and the Government of the Kingdom of Lesotho for new approaches to gender-based violence prevention and response, including engaging the private sector to establish procedures to address gender-based violence. However, as we know, like in many countries, women and girls of Lesotho continue to experience violence in both public and private spaces. The human and economic cost of gender-based violence is profound, and we as UNFPA remain committed to support the Kingdom of Lesotho to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, including through addressing negative social norms and gender stereotypes. Through partnership and international cooperation between the Kingdom and the United Nations system and development partners, we can work to ensure a safe world for the women and girls of Lesotho. I thank you.
Thank you very much, UNFPA. UNICEF in 1 minute, in one minute, please. Thank you.
Majesty King Lucia III, Her Majesty the Queen, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, Bome Lebomdate. On behalf of Executive Director Catherine Russell, the UNICEF family joins the Basotho in commemorating 200 years since the founding of the kingdom. Allow me to make 3 quick points. Too many of the child-related sustainable development goals are off track in Lesotho. Children are missing out on getting a birth certificate, on going to and staying in school, and on having 3 nutritious meals a day. Most troubling is the so-called triple threat faced by adolescent girls and young women: early pregnancy, new HIV infections, and gender-based violence. It threatens to unravel the fragile gains made in the AIDS response. Growing inequities, the climate crisis, the learning crisis, food insecurity, gender-based violence, chronic poverty. As if these challenges were not enough, we're facing them at a time when women's rights and children's rights are being eroded and rolled back. This week, it strikes me in the corridors of this building, you can feel the energy and the buzz. You can feel the sense, the genuine sense and desire to want to do more. But engaging in discussions and strong statements here in the UN is not enough to change the trajectory of the lives of Basotho children. It's strong political leadership, it's local action from Maseru to Mhotlong, financial investment and accountability. And I really hope with this action, we can turn the triple threat into a triple dividend. If you'll allow me 30 seconds just to share a small personal reflection. After years of traveling to Lesotho to support the government in the early days of the AIDS epidemic, I returned to the country as UNICEF representative in 2019 and remained during the COVID-19 epidemic. It was a challenging time of fear and isolation and grief, but looking back, what I remember is the formidable strength of communities and the advocacy of leaders to make sure that their small landlocked country would not be forgotten. Seeing young people mobilize, witnessing the dedication of community health workers who carried vaccines by horseback to the hardest to reach is a testament of the resilience of the Basotho people. They brought hope, and it was one of the greatest privileges of my professional life to be part of that. Thank you for sharing the challenges and the aspirations, and indeed the hope. UNICEF stands ready to continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of their Majesties, may I now ask the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations to convey a vote of thanks. But before I do that, let me acknowledge the First Lady of Seychelles, who is also with us in the room. Honorable Minister, the other delegation is already at the door. May we please thank the participants on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Your Majesties. Like we can see that the other delegations are already here. Let me thank you, all the supporters and partners to this important side event by Her Majesty. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. May we now allow their Majesties and the High Table to take leave of us, and then we follow.